Welcome to another episode of the Red and White Podcast. This is episode 2 of the 2016 season, and I apologize, I forgot our typical early season intro for our new listeners, so here it is. This podcast is for NC State fans that are looking for honest and agenda-free sports talk, specifically, about the Wolfpack. We are a conversational style podcast with occasional interviews and user phone calls. It provides an interesting, hopefully, view of NC State Wolfpack without excessive snark or trolling. We'll try to keep it real. Unlike local radio and some of the mainstream media that you might hear, this podcast will bring honest and semi-in-depth sports talk that NC State fans want to be a part of. We are blunt, honest, whether good or bad, you'll at least always know what we're thinking. And when I say we, I mean myself, Evan, and my co-host Dustin. Say hi, Dustin. Crickets. Yeah, so my co-host won't be joining us this week, and I found out about 10 minutes ago as his wife sent me this text message that I'm pretty sure I'm mandated to read right now. She sent me a message and it said, "So you're going to be a man down for the podcast tonight. Someone drank 2 4 Lokos and a 3/4 of a Margarita tall boy at the pool and is currently in bed." This was 7 p.m. So, yeah, there's that. I'm not sure if that's a step up from his usual Mad Dog 2020 and 6-pack of Smirnoff Ice, but it is what it is. So it's just me, and I've got enough to say, so let's get started. In an effort to constantly improve the podcast for your listening pleasure, we're trying a new format. Now, granted, this would work better with the two of us, but Dustin hopefully will rejoin us at some point in the future. Maybe we can insert some loud noises or something into the intro for when he gets to edit this with his 4 Loko hangover. Just saying 4 Loko hangover makes my head hurt, but yeah, there it is. So yeah, new format. We talked to some listeners at the William & Mary tailgate. Thanks for all those who stopped by. And we're going to try to stick with some segments. Now bear with us, it's a work in progress, but I think it will be enjoyable, at least at some point. In addition to our segments, this week I'll be joined by Stephen Igoe from Hoist the Colors to talk ECU. Hoist the Colors is part of the 24/7 network recruiting sites. And I think Stephen does a great job covering ECU, so you'll want to stay in touch. If you want to stay in touch with the Pirates, follow Stephen on Twitter. I'll link to that at some point, I'm sure. So segments, here we go. First, let's talk about what we liked about the game, or what I liked about the game. I said it in my Raw reaction Saturday night after the game, but the fans showed up Thursday night. Hurricane threat, but the place was packed, right? It was a great showing for state fans. I mean, it was really impressive. Against the FCS school Thursday night, all the factors, there's a lot of excuses. Even my group, my regular group, there was quite a few excuses. I can't get off work. It's a week opener, right? Or it's a home opener, season opener. Let's show up. And for the most part, state fans did. And, just never gets old, never ceases to amaze me. There's really no reason for it, but we do it, and it's awesome. So it's probably not hyperbole when you hear Dave Dorn or somebody else say, thanks for the fans, and the fans are great, etc. They probably mean it because it's true. So, enough kissing your ass. What else did I like? I loved Ryan Finley's control. He seemed to have a great poise. Didn't do anything stupid. He had good game management. Made the right reads. Didn't freak out the few times he did get pressure. One time he even held it to the end and checked all the way down to J-Sam. Picked up a first down on when there really was nobody else open. So you can see why he won the starting job. You see the benefits to McClendon. The kid can really throw it. He's got a huge arm. The passes that he completed, the time he got. You can see why everybody's so high on his talent. He's just a little bit more raw, I think. His decision that when he threw the interception, I think he rolled out of the pocket probably unnecessarily, felt some fake pressure there, and bailed and got him in trouble. I think the pocket was okay. I don't think there was too much pressure. Watched the game again, and in particular that play, and he could have stayed there a little bit longer, made the right decision, either find his check down or throw it out of bounds. But he made the bad play. That's what's going to happen when you don't have experience. I think that's also one of the reasons why State fans wanted to see him in the game at some point last year, right? Get some snaps. He's not redshirting. Get him in there. Get him a little bit of experience so he's a little more game ready. A lot of coaches don't do that. I know Tom O'Brien didn't really do that either, but it just always baffles me why. Maybe they don't want a QB controversy for whatever reason, but I think that extra experience would have proven valuable. He also fumbled the ball, but I'm not sure if that was a bad snap. It's hard to tell on the replay. It looked like it hit him in the hands. He just was a little bit anxious, but he picked it up and it was fine. Or actually, Gillespie picked it up, so it wasn't too big of a deal. But I think the coach, not a big deal for us, but I'm sure the coaches pointed that one out as well. So you can see why Finley got the job. Makes sense to me. Dave Doran wants to get the ball into the hands of his playmakers, and that's what Finley did, and he did it without any trouble. Maybe it's familiarity with the offense. That could be a part of it. Probably is part of it, but he also made better decisions under pressure. So he's the guy. I think he's the guy going forward. You'll probably see some packages with McClendon because he does provide a little bit different element. They ran some of the read options, and he's a better downfield passer. At least it looked like he had some really nice throws. That catch at the end of the game, the throw to Kelvin Harmon. It was a great throw. It had some zip on it, and Harmon made an amazing catch. You can see why everybody's so high on him. So, we'll see. We'll see how that goes out moving forward, how much time they give him. I think you'll see more time. He'll probably get some more series, just depending on the situations of the games. But the offense definitely had a different feel for him than it did for Finley, which is okay. I think that's, you're playing to your quarterback's strengths, and I think that's okay. I think that's what any good coach would do. So, happy with that. I really liked Finley's control. I really thought the guys looked in really good shape. I know there's been a lot of talk about D'Antonio Burnett's Coach Thunder, whatever you want to call him, his strength and conditioning program, him taking over now for Velt Camp. And the guys look good. They look strong. Samuels looked fast as ever. He's not even necessarily a speed guy, but he looked fast. Days and Hines. Try covering those three is going to be tough for anybody. And I thought the conditioning for the players looked great. It was good to see. Another thing I thought was really good was the offensive line. Now, granted, it was William and Mary, and I get it, but not just the offensive line, the downfield blocking was good. Saw a lot of defensive players on the ground, and they weren't just from the offensive linemen blocking them, but the wide receivers blocking hard. And that's important when you're trying to have success on the screens. You need that, and I think Braylon Cherry's screen pass, you could see Joe Selfo, he was blocking downfield. And I think it was Steph Lewis, if I'm not mistaken. He had a great block downfield. But the guys were working hard outside for blocking, and I think that's how you get those extra yards. I think that's how you get that offense and get your playmakers in space. It's a team game for a reason. So I was really impressed with that. And we'll see how that holds up with the Pirates, but I really like the aggressive nature of the offensive line. I thought that was a nice change historically. We were kind of a zone blocking, but this year they were definitely more man. I think that's the right term for it, man blocking schemes. But they were aggressive about it too, and they were just constantly pushing the guys downfield and off the line, and that was awesome. That's good to see. That'll be important going through the year. Hopefully everybody stays healthy and that depth is strong enough to maintain that. But also the O-line looked good. Now, I guess we have to talk about what we didn't like, right? Granted it was William and Mary, so it's hard to say, this was great, this wasn't good. You have to take it with a grain of salt. Soft coverage on the corners. I'm not sure what that's all about. It seems like our guys were lining up, 5 yards off the wide receivers. And I'm not sure if that's avoid getting beat or that's how they're coached. Maybe it's a scheme. I think back to one of Chuck Amato's DCs, Reggie Herring. Super aggressive. We were running man covers. We were all over the wide receivers in the corner. I think coincidentally we had number 1 defense in the country that year. Might be because of some guys named Mario Williams and Manny Lawson and company, but we couldn't be farther from that now. And it's not because the D-line's not strong. I mean, it's just maybe not as strong, but it's pretty strong. I'm just not sure why we line up like that. Right? Why don't we bump them? Why don't we get up in their face and jam them? If anything, that hurts. Hurts the timing on all these offenses that are running spreads. I don't know. I mean, it's somebody, one of you out there who's has a little bit more schematic knowledge of defense wants to reach out to us. Either leave us a message or tweet at us, and maybe we'll bring you on. We can talk about it. I know I'm not the only Pack fan who saw that and kind of points at guys like Tocho and Stevens. Like, get up on them. You're athletic enough. Tocho's supposed to be a super athlete. Put him up in somebody's face, jam him, knock him off the line. Let's see how that changes moving forward. But I thought that was curious. I wasn't a huge fan of that. I wasn't also a huge fan of the fans in the second half, right? It gave you a lot of love early, but man, I could probably have an entire show about pass outs. So I'm not going to even go there, but come back in the third quarter, people. That's all I got to say. Come back. It's football, all right? You can drink a beer anytime. Come back to watch the game. Cantavia Street, awesome sack play. I'm not going to ride the guy for taking off his helmet. It was dumb. He probably knows it. Heard it 100 times by now. It was a great move, great play. Can't have that moving forward. Can't have that against ECU. Can't have that against the Clemsons and whatnot. And they'll get it straight. I'm not worried about it. But it was nice to see the potential he has, right? And kind of come to fruition. We've heard all the years how strong he was and how highly rated he was. And that was his first career sack. He's kind of getting into his comfort zone, playing the defensive end spot again. And you could see it. It was fast. It made a strong swim move and just destroyed that right tackle to get that sack. So keep your helmet on next time. But other than that, that was good. Now let's get to this week's game. Let's talk about the Pirates. I interviewed Stephen Igoe from Hoist the Colors, and I thought he was excellent. He was well informed. He gave a great outlook on the Pirates and what State fans should expect with the game. I gotta say, I apologize for the audio issues a few minutes in. It should only last about 30 seconds or so. But don't let that take away what Stephen had to say. I thought he did an excellent job, and you can tell he knows what he's talking about. And you'll probably hear a lot of familiar names. So hopefully you enjoy that, and I'll catch you on the other side. All right, folks, we're here with Stephen Igoe from Hoist the Colors, part of the 24/7 network. He covers ECU, and he's here to give us a preview of the Pirates and the Wolfpack who play this weekend. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
And before we get too much into ECU, I was curious if you watched the state games, and what are your thoughts on the Wolfpack as an outsider?
Yeah, I got to watch a little bit of the highlights. Not a ton, just because obviously with the TV being limited and whatnot, it kind of only being online. I didn't get to watch the entire game, but I was impressed, obviously, with Matt Day as the running back. I think we all know that he's a pretty established running back, and just the way the new offensive coordinator kind of ran the offense, and obviously the quarterback situation with State was kind of a question mark going in. But I thought Finley looked pretty composed. He looked accurate. You could see why why Drinkwitz wanted to get him over with him from Boise State. And I thought overall they looked good. And then obviously after their early defensive, laps with William & Mary kind of driving right down the field and scoring, I thought they looked pretty impressive on defense. So kind of what you expected, I guess, from a veteran, coaching staff that's been there a while, even though they have some new pieces. Facing William & Mary, which is a decent FCS team. But I wasn't too surprised, other than maybe just how accurate Finley was and the way he kind of ran the offense. But as a transfer, I guess you kind of expect that, but don't really know for sure until he gets under the limelight. So yeah, I was pretty impressed by what I saw.
I think it's how most of the state fans feel, and probably most fans in general. That first game, man, nobody knows what to think. You know, and along those same lines, I watched the ECU opener. To say I was impressed by the Pirates, not just by winning, but the way they played a clean game. I think maybe one turnover. I'm not sure the numbers, but I know there wasn't too many big mistakes. No real mental lapses, that we've seen before from first-year coaches. So I mean, I thought it was an impressive debut for Coach Montgomery. Is that you have a similar thought, or was it the quality opponent a big factor in your mind for the Pirates?
Yeah, I kind of agree. It was pretty impressive just from the standpoint of, first time head coach, pretty young guy, 38-year-old, first time being a head coach in any level, just to be able to game plan the way they did. And obviously Western Carolina, not the greatest opponent, but they've had 7-8 wins the last few years at the FCS level. To be able to game plan the way they did, the preparation from everybody I've talked to surrounding the program, the routine. He studied under Mike Tomlin. He studied under Dave Cutcliffe as an assistant coach. He knows his stuff. He hired a really experienced staff. Tony Peterson, the offensive coordinator, his offenses have put up huge numbers at Louisiana Tech and at Marshall. So the offense didn't surprise me at all. Defensively, I thought they did pretty well as well. Got a big turnover. The secondary looked good, which is supposed to be a strong point of this defense. But going back to the offense, I mean, the story was definitely Philip Nelson. You're talking about, a transfer quarterback, somewhat similar to NC State, but Finley at least played last year for Boise State. Nelson hadn't taken a snap in a live game since December of 2013.
Wow.
While at Minnesota, he was a 2-year starter at Minnesota, transferred to Rutgers. Then he got kicked off the team for a serious off-the-field incident. Had to walk on to ECU under Ruffin McNeil because no one else would take him. And then sat out his year, was finally placed on scholarship by Coach Mo this offseason. And then he goes out and, throws 4 incompletions in 32 attempts with 400 yards and 6 total touchdowns. So it was a pretty impressive debut for him. We all knew that he, had the talent in practice, but for him to go out and, some of the throws he made, it doesn't matter what defense you're facing. They were NFL throws towards the sideline. He put one right on the money for about 40 yards towards the back of the end zone late in the game. So that was the biggest takeaway. I think ECU has a major talent at quarterback with Nelson, even with some turnover there in the offseason. Nelson is a guy that could put up huge numbers in this offense.
Yeah, I thought that too. I was impressed watching him play. He looked very composed, and I was a bit surprised to see that. I forgot he had transferred from Minnesota, and he's been around, so he's kind of I'd say mature, but he's an older guy, so he's a little bit more composed. I was impressed. I thought he looked good. Do you see that offense? In my opinion, it was designed a little bit to compensate for a questionable offensive line. Is the offensive line a concern for the Pirates, or am I making that up?
No, I mean, they definitely are. I guess the question mark of the offense, I mean, they are stacked at receiver. Last week, Trayvon Brown, who was probably their number 2 receiver behind Zay Jones, to play due to some academic precautions is what the release said. So he might be back this week, whatever that means. But the wide receiver position is stacked. Running back, I mean, Darrell Scott is a former 4-star recruit who's their 4-string running back right now.
Yeah.
So they're pretty stacked at running back. Anthony Scott had a huge game. He's another former Halley Touted recruit getting his first chance to start. So, yeah, the offensive line is the question mark, but they did look good against Western. Granted, as you said, kind of a case where they did some different things, screens and quick throws to throw the defense off and not let them get a lot of rush. But even when they did go play action and had some deeper dropbacks, I thought they looked very good against a questionable Western Carolina defense at best. And this will be a much bigger test with NC State's defensive line, Kentavious Street, Bradley Chubb, those guys.
All right, you mentioned the offense. I thought it was interesting. The Pirates were, under Ruffin McNeil, more of an air raid team, but they seemed a little bit more run heavy this week. I know you said they threw 32 times. What kind of offense do you expect the Pirates to run maybe the rest of the season?
I think it'll be, it's still going to be your typical college spread this day and age. But I definitely do expect it to be more balanced. Under Ruff, they were pretty much in that 55 to 60% pass to 40% run. I expect it to be close to 50-50 going forward. I think Tony Peterson likes the spread. He likes the pistol. There's not going to be under center a lot. They practice it a little bit, but it's still going to be mostly shotgun. And they did show some four or some three running back sets where obviously they would have a tight end in the backfield, two running backs. They showed a lot of formations with James Summers, who was half quarterback, half athlete last year because they had so many injuries at the quarterback position. But now he's primarily kind of your wildcat / receiver / running back. He's basically the Jalen Samuels of ECU. To kind of give NC State fans a good comparison. Though I think Summers is probably a little bit quicker, where Samuels is a little bit bigger for NC State. But similar type of roles that he's going to play, and they probably gave him 10, 15 snaps, maybe a little more. So there's going to be some variations. There's going to be some spread and your typical spread offense, but I definitely think it'll be more balanced. And, Anthony Scott's definitely the number one back. I think Summers, even though he's listed as a quarterback and even though he practices as a quarterback, he's going to be your de facto number two running back in terms of carries. And then also Devin Anderson's a 5'10", 210-pound guy, bruising type running back who'll get some, short yardage carries as well. So they definitely have talent at running back and, should be able to run the football much better than they have in the past.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. You mentioned James Summers and Darrell Scott. I think State fans should know those guys, as we recruited both of them pretty heavily down to the wire. And Darrell Scott went to Tennessee, then transferred to ECU, and Summers committed to Carolina, then didn't get in, went to community college or something along those lines, ended up at ECU. But I was impressed with Anthony Scott. I thought he looked good. Can you tell us a little bit more about Scott and the type of player he is, and maybe Summers and a little bit how he's used? I know he's bounced around all over the place, as you said.
Yeah. Well, Anthony, he was coming out of high school, he went to Virginia Beach, and he was a highly rated 3-star recruit. Had offers from Virginia Tech, a couple others as well. Ended up choosing ECU on signing day a couple years ago, and ECU gave him the chance to play running back. Some schools wanted him to play DB. He's only 5'9", 5'10", probably 190, but he's a legit 4'4", maybe even 4'3" in the 40, blazing speed. And this year, the biggest difference for him, whereas in the past has been kind of he's only been a scat back type of guy, wouldn't break many tackles. This year, he put on 10, 15 pounds of muscle, and he ran with some enthusiasm and some power against Western, which, broke some arm tackles for the first time in his career, which I'm interested to see. Can he do that against a more, physical defense? NC State is going to be a major step up from that. I do think, with his home run speed, if he gets a crease, he can take it the distance. I mean, Coach Mo, Scotty Montgomery said that the biggest thing that was that made them want him to be the number one back is just how many 35, 40-yard touchdowns he had in practice, just because he's got that type of speed. So a good all-around back. And then the biggest difference also was catching the ball. He had 9 catches in the season opener. Last year, he had 4 catches the entire season. So, doubled up his reception ratio already. Granted, he didn't play much last year, but I think this staff is using him much better. And then with Summers, it's kind of some of the things I just hit on, but just you'll see him lined up at quarterback, where they just totally take Nelson out of the field. But the biggest thing with Summers is, he's the athlete first, but, they didn't really throw the ball at all with Summers last week. But last year he played quarterback 6-7 games and made some good throws.
Right.
So if State, which I think what would be the scary part for State is if they fully commit to a, 8-9 guy in the box defense when Summers comes in, he can put the ball up in one-on-one coverage to Zay Jones or Brown or whoever and do it good enough to where it can be a threat in the passing game. So that's kind of one of the things that State fans and State, defensive coordinator and coaches, I'm sure, are kind of worried about in the back of their mind. But I still think you have to make him beat you through the air, because at 6'3", 220 pounds like he is, he he's a beast to tackle in the open field.
Yeah, he's a big kid, and I was impressed with him. At least the times he got in last year, I thought he looked pretty good. Maybe not the best passer, but he could do a lot of things. And man, he made some plays last year. I was impressed.
Yeah, for sure. And last year it was, he especially against Virginia Tech. I mean, he single-handedly won ECU that game, and that was his first time really playing the entire season. But they pretty much lined him up and went to read option. He made a couple throws in one-on-one coverage. But that was with him as full-time quarterback, and eventually teams figured out how to stop it. I think if he can be a swing player and also be a distraction, because, for instance, in the season opener, they put him at running back. Philip Nelson pretty much play fake to him on a read option play. The entire Western Carolina defense went to where Summers was running, and it left Nelson a wide open lane up the middle for the touchdown. So it's just another weapon ECU has. I think it just adds to the dimension of what they can do on offense. But yeah, he's good enough to throw it. If the passing lanes are there, he can make the throw. Now, if he's the full-time quarterback, he's not good enough to do that, but he can do it if he's put in the best situation.
Yeah, I think he's definitely an athlete that we have to key on at some point, because they could put him anywhere, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they use him against our defense, which I think will probably, like you said, will probably be pretty run-heavy defense. So it'll be interesting to see. I want to go back to Coach Montgomery for a second there, and you can feel free to punt on this question if you want, but I got to ask, how do you feel about what went down with Ruff and McNeil? And second part of that question is, they ended up with Scotty Montgomery, which is maybe not high in their initial list, but early signs seem to be okay. How do you feel about him?
Well, to start off with Ruff, I mean, Ruff was, from a media perspective, one of the best guys to work with. I mean, he was, honestly, the Ruff that everybody saw in press conferences and on TV and interviews, that was Ruff McNeil. He was as genuine as could be. He was the most caring guy. I think he was a perfect fit for the ECU attitude. I mean, he played at ECU. He wanted to be at ECU his whole career. Personality-wise, he was, the best fit. I think coaching-wise, yeah, his teams played great against ACC teams. There's no doubt about that. But when it came to conference play, there were some major shortcomings, especially coaching-wise. Time management was an issue. In a lot of situations, they lost, 3 or 4 games over the last 2 years of his tenure, where it was just there were some head-scratching moments, cost ECU a chance to have some seasons where they finished the year ranked, or win a conference championship in the American Athletic Conference, which was, has been a really strong conference the last 2 years in terms of what Conference USA used to be. So I love Ruff as a person. You're supposed to be unbiased as a media member, but I was always, I was pretty hurt when he got fired, just from the standpoint of I was going to miss working with him. And then, to turn around and they hire Scotty Montgomery, who at the initial time, ECU's top target was Gene Chizik, who, used to coach at Auburn. They wanted to make a splash hire, but the more the process went on, the more it was obvious Chizik was just using ECU to try and get more money as North Carolina's defensive coordinator, which he eventually did. And then it supposedly came down to Brady Hoke and Everett Withers, and I don't think any ECU fans were too fired up about that either. So they actually brought in Scotty Montgomery, which the coaching search firm, which Jeff Confer, the athletic director, was using, just kind of as a late interviewee, just to kind of see what else was out there, and he just blew him away. And if you hear Scotty Montgomery talk on any interview or in person, I mean, he has that personality. You can tell he took a lot from Mike Tomlin, the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach, when he was an assistant there. Just the way he talks, the way he means business, it's no joke. And when, after every practice to come over for interviews, he does a full-out sprint to the interview session immediately after practice, immediately after meeting with his team, because he doesn't want to waste 1 second just walking, because he wants to go back in and review film and get on, with the next practice and everything. So he's 100% business. When they hired him, I was scratching my head a little bit, but the more I talk with people in the program, the organization around the football program is so much better now than it was. He hired a really experienced coaching staff with, SEC ties. Tony Peterson's coached at a high level and done well wherever he's been as an offensive coordinator. The offensive line coach they got has an impressive background. So, I was impressed with what he put together, and now you're kind of seeing it firsthand. There's obviously going to be some learning adjustments on the way with the first-time young up-and-coming coach, but I'm not going to be surprised at all if he has big-time success with just the whole operation that he's about.
Yeah, I think you can see that in the first game. I mean, it was very under control. Like I said, they didn't do anything to beat themselves, and they were mentally focused. I was pretty impressed. To be honest, I was not expecting that. I was expecting probably more towards the John Thompson era than towards an upgrade. But it seems like early returns are good so far, and I know it's a long way to go, but
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's like anytime you hire a young up and coming coordinator, I think there's boom or bust potential.
Right.
It's just so hit or miss at times, and I think the biggest thing with him is just who he learned under. Like Mike Tomlin, like there's so much Mike Tomlin and Scotty Montgomery. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Mike Tomlin, but just the way he carries himself, all business, no nonsense. It's just you see it. And then in David Cutcliffe, they all have the Duke background, and most of his football operations guys that he brought over came from Duke, and you can just tell that they're really intelligent guys. They know how to recruit. They know how to prepare for game day. They know how to go about their business. Under Ruff, it was so much more disorganized, and he was, again, a good guy, a pretty good coach. But I think that just the way he runs his whole operation is it's much more business oriented and maybe the better coach long term. But we'll see.
Yeah.
This weekend will go a long way towards determining that.
Yeah, I think it's hard to tell based on the opponents, but
exactly.
There's a little bit you can tell. Little things you can see that they were doing right, and I was impressed. So I kind of understand your feeling there. And for anybody who follows the Red White Podcast on Twitter, you can probably have seen my feelings on Gene Chizik. So you guys are probably better off without him.
I think that would have been, even though he may have been a sexy name, just in terms of winning a national championship at Auburn, I think, who wouldn't win a national championship with Cam Newton as your quarterback? So,
right. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I'm curious. What's your general feeling about the game? Predictions, thoughts? Give it to us. Give it to us hard.
Yeah, I think it could go. Typical. Both teams coming off an SCS opponent. I think it's a pretty evenly matched game. Honestly, I feel like ECU is pretty talented on offense. NC State obviously very talented on offense and on the defensive line. I think if the game was in Raleigh, I would feel pretty safe picking NC State. With it being an ECU, with Coach Mo really needing with the schedule they have coming up at South Carolina, at Virginia Tech the next 2 weeks, I think this is going to be their best chance at a Power 5 non-conference win. ECU, no matter what they say, they're going to get up for NC State 100%. 5 straight wins over the ACC shows that. It'll be interesting to see what, first-time head coach and first-time staff, if they get down early in the game, how will they respond? I think that's when they'll really be tested in a big-time environment. Western Carolina, it was kind of a, foregone conclusion by the first quarter, and they didn't really face much adversity. So that'll be a big key. On NC State side, I think it's a huge game for NC State. I mean, I know they probably feel good about their, the opponent coming up next, but after that, when they get in the midst of ACC play, it's just going to be brutal with that stretch run of games they have. And honestly, I think this could be one of the games that, if they lose this, there's some pressure's already on Dave Doran. If you lose to ECU, I think that just builds going into the tough part of their schedule later in the year. So I think it's a critical game for them. If they could start 3-0 instead of 2-1 and have some cushion, that'll help them. So I expect both teams to give each other's best shot. I think pretty typically, comes down to turnover. I think ECU's home field advantage will play a role. If I had to make a prediction, ECU NC State typically tends to be a close game. Just based off home field, I'll say ECU, but I wouldn't be surprised either way to be quite honest. I think it's going to be a great game.
I think that's the general consensus, and I'm going to send my thank you note to ESPN for making that a nooner, because the last thing we want is a night game in Greenville. So
Yeah.
the noon one should be a big help for us. So I'm appreciative of that one.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be a great atmosphere either way. But you're definitely right. A whole day full of tailgating wouldn't have spelled the best scenario for ECU or for NC State coming to ECU. But
Yeah.
I think it'll be a fun atmosphere either way. To me, it's NC State and ECU are the two best football schools as far as fans and just actually giving a crap about football in the state. So I think that's what makes the game so fun, as opposed to when one of us play UNC or Duke or whatnot.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think that's something a lot of people take for granted. And, state fans might be overlooking ECU a little bit in this situation, but that would be a grave mistake, because we should know better. Like you said, ECU's won 5 straight against ACC. They've won 2 straight against the Pac. So, it is an uphill battle. I think State's favored by 4.5. I'll like you out. I'm not comfortable with that at all. It can go any way at any different time. I think we'll learn a lot about both teams on Saturday.
For sure. No, I agree. It should be a great game, though.
Well, Stephen, thanks for joining us, or joining me. My partner left me hanging, but thanks for joining me, joining our fans, letting us know about the game. You guys can find Stephen Hoist the Colors. You want to plug your website, Twitter, all that stuff?
Yeah. If you're interested in reading it all about ECU, check us out at hoistthecolors.net. It's the East Carolina 24/7 sports site. So check us out there. You can follow me on Twitter at Stephen with a PH. Last name is Igoe, Igoe. But yeah, thanks again for having me. I have a lot of friends and family who are NC State fans, so I've always enjoyed following NC State and keeping up with their programs. Definitely, probably my favorite as far as just the in-state ACC programs. Definitely, anytime NC State plays in North Carolina or Duke or Wake Forest, I'm usually going for the Pac. So thank you guys for having me. Hope you all have a good year, too.
I appreciate you, too, man. Thanks a lot, Stephen.
All right. See you.
Okay, folks, hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I always love talking to well-informed people, and Stephen is definitely one of them. I'm a bit remiss that I didn't ask him about this being ECU's Super Bowl, but, I don't know if that comes off as offensive or not. And I wanted to be respectful for him for joining us, but I would have liked to get that one in. I apologize to all y'all for not bringing that up. But it's true. It's their biggest game. They know it. Every ACC game is a big game for them, and then playing against us, it's just they want to beat us. ECU. My thoughts on the game this weekend. I tried to justify to myself that William & Mary was that much better than Western Carolina while I was watching that game, but I couldn't, and I don't think we learned too much about either team, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. Sure, both teams. I think they held them to 7. We held William & Mary to 14. But I don't think you really got a good understanding of what the team can do. And I think they both have playmakers. But you'll see a different game with an instant upgrade in competition level. So can Finley handle the pressure? Can their quarterback Nelson handle the pressure that our defensive line's going to do, or create for them? I think we're going to find out what both teams are made of. Some of the points, watching that ECU game, and I brought it up in the interview, can their offensive line handle our defensive line? And this could be a big advantage for us. Just from watching their game, I thought their offensive line really struggled, and I think we can dictate the pace of the game and get really disruptive early and make Nelson improvise, and making a quarterback improvise, getting out of his comfort zone. I think that's where the opportunity is for turnovers and just get him out of rhythm. I think that's what we're looking for. I was impressed with their running back, Anthony Scott. We know the name's James Summers. And if the Pack can contain both of them, make somebody else beat us, I think we have a pretty good chance, right? I think those are 2 key playmakers. I was also I think we have an advantage on the offensive side of the ball. And also might be this way versus anybody. At least maybe that's my thought about it. But covering Matt Days, Nyheim Hines, Jalen Samuels, among others, is going to be very challenging for opposing defenses, right? And that's just not a State fan talking about a State team. Those guys are legit good players. And you could see that in the Western Carolina game, that they were doing things like they were supposed to, frankly. And I think it's going to be a hard cover for a lot of teams, maybe short of the Clemsons and Florida States, who's getting steamrolled by Ole Miss right now. But everybody else is going to have a hard time covering them, let alone some of the other guys we have, Kelvin Harmon and Trowell, and there are some weapons we have. So I think there's an opportunity there. Early, I was confident about this game before the season started, but watching ECU's opener, and it was Western Carolina, but they looked poised and under control, and I thought that was impressive for a first-year coach. The line opened at 4.5, but heavy money on the Pack has moved it to 6, and I think that's probably way too much to give away. I think we're more talented. I think farther along as a program. But ECU's Super Bowl, and they've won 5 straight versus the ACC and 2 straight versus the Pack, so I don't think any State fan should be overconfident here. ESPN did a solid by making it a noon game. That'll help a lot. And, I predicted earlier in the year that the Pack would win this one. I think we do. But it should be a very, very good game. It always is. It always is down there. I think 2010, everybody remembers. The one Russell Wilson throwing the overtime pick, right? Game we should have won. We're better than them. But you just never know what's going to happen. Yeah. So it should be interesting. I think we'll learn a lot about this. I think the Pack wins a close one, but as Lee Corso says, closer than the experts think. I just want to also randomly talk about the announcers. I went back and watched our game versus William and Mary, and I know I butcher a lot of names on this podcast, but good night. The announcers for that game mispronounced Matt Hayes, Jason Samuels, I heard. I mean, there was all kinds of crazy names. I'm like, come on, fellas. I know you're bringing out the D squad for the Watch ESPN Ocho Wolfpack opener versus the FCS, but the guys, you got to know your names, right? It was awful. It was almost comical, and I saw a lot of Twitter comments about it, but I had to point that out. That was brutal. I think that's all I got. And, now let's get on to our last segment. Let's hear from the fans. Some listeners seeked us out during the tailgate, and we've got some thoughts and quotes. We asked the usual questions about game predictions, season predictions, and even snuck in some general questions to gauge the opinion of Dave Doran. So we'll make Dustin edit those in when he wakes up with his 4 Loko hangover, but hopefully you enjoy them, and keep the calls coming, and come find us at tailgate. Join us. We love to talk the Pack. We love to get you on the radio or get you on the podcast, get you on here. Even if it's just a little quote or whatever. I think as you heard, I believe it was Will, drop some knowledge on us. If you got anything you want to say, come join us. You can also call us and leave us a message. Go straight to our voicemail, 919-766-0096. And as always, thanks for listening. Go Pack.
All right, guys, I'm here with Matt Purdy. What do you think's going to happen tonight, Matt?
A lot of rain, as well as a 20-point victory.
20 points? Yeah. Only 20?
Only 20. The rain will slow it down a little bit.
The spread's 23, though.
Yeah, I know.
People are going to be upset if we don't hit 23.
We're State fans. People are going to be upset no matter what.
Hey, there you go. All right.
Cool. There you go.
All right, so we're here with Alex. What do you think's going to go on with the game tonight, man?
I think it's going to be a slaughter.
A slaughter? How about the season?
Yeah, we're going to win.
We're gonna win. We're gonna win tonight. What about the year? Yeah, what's the score tonight?
38-13.
I'm going to go 42-10.
42-10. Spread's only 23, man.
I hear you.
Yeah. I like it. What about the season?
How many wins?
7-5.
7-5. Who's that 7th win? There's got to be a good team that loses.
Louisville.
Louisville is your 7th win.
Go to hell, Carolina.
All right, so we're here with James. What do you think's going to go on with the game tonight, man?
First of all, I think it's going to be plus 23. I'd take NC State and the points.
Quit talking about debauchery and gambling. What's the score of the game?
42-14.
42-14. What about the rest of the season? How's it going to go?
7-5.
Who's the 7th win? Who's the
I
good
got
team we
them
beat?
beating Miami at 7-5.
Oh, there you go. He agrees with me.
We're here with Will. Will, give me your thoughts. What are you looking forward to in this game?
I'm looking forward to seeing all of our boys, Thad Moss, go off. Because Jalen Samuel's going to get about 4 TDs. Then they're going to sit him down. And they're like, all right, let's bring in Moss balls. And they're just going to throw deep outs to him. And he's going to do the Randy Moss celebration where he kind of pulls his pants down and moons the crowd.
I like it. That's a bold prediction. Tell me, how many kicks do you think Nyheim Hines is going to take to the house?
Normally I would say 7, but I just predicted Jalen Samuel's getting how many touchdowns?
4.
4. So let's go. He's going to run back 3 of them to the 1, and they're just going to run that little cross to Jalen for 3 of his TDs.
That's bold. That's a bold prediction.
It's
I like
super
it.
bold. I'm a bold guy.
All right, so let's get real here. Tell me how you feel about Dave Doran.
I like Dave Doran. He's a hard-working man. That's what you think about him, at least. Or is that you? Yeah.
I like him. I'm a fan.
All right, he's a good guy. I like the fact that he brought in Drinkowitz. He's the best last name that I've ever heard in my life. Not a fan that we kept old Huxtable, but we'll see how it goes this year, and we'll make moves from there.
I like it.
I got something to say.
Oh, we got another guest.
Here comes Alex Williams.
Alex Williams,
the best attorney in Raleigh.
This is the guy with the catchphrase.
Alex, what's your prediction for the season, man? We got to get a record prediction from you.
Oh, I'm going 7-5.
7-5. Who's the 7th win?
I'm the one that's picking Louisville.
At Louisville. We're just gonna toast Lamar Jackson. He's not gonna toast us.
We played well against them the past 2 years. I think we got it this year.
What are you looking forward to in the game tonight?
I want to see who we go with at quarterback. I want to see who we go with at kicker.
Who do you think is going to be the quarterback?
I think it's going to be McClendon. He's more athletic than Finley. I think he's going to be the guy.
Adam, what are you looking forward to in the game tonight?
Looking forward to not being shitty.
I like it.
I'm looking forward to rain most of all, because I feel like that if I look forward to it, and I came ultra prepared for rain, and I feel like that'll.
What's your record prediction for the year? Give it to us.
How many games we play?
12.
12-0. 13-0. No, 14, because we got to play the playoff game before we win the national championship.
So that'd be 15-0.
15-0. 15-0.
I like you heard it here first, folks.
15-0. But on the real, probably 5-7 without a
All right, so we're here with a familiar voice for NC State podcasting, James Curl. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm doing well. I'm marveling at your fancy equipment and missing the days of podcasting myself.
So you do miss it. You going to come back to it?
Probably not anytime soon. I told the wife that I was going to be home more and do less of that sort of stuff. So I don't know if I can renege on that sort of stuff.
Family priorities. That's where it's at. So. Right. The game tonight, what do you think we got, man?
Well, I think we'll win. I think William & Mary will push us probably harder than I think a lot of that's impressive. I think they'll push us harder than maybe some folks will think, just because they see the FCS in the front and they think, well, there'll be a pushover. But supposedly they're pretty good, especially in offense. So I really want to see how our offensive line performs. I want to see them meaner and nastier than they have been in years past. And, if we jump out on them early and kind of pin them down, I think it should go pretty smooth. If we let them hang around, then that's when it's going to become butt pucker time, and we got to kind of hope that things hold together. You don't want them to be hanging around second half, third quarter, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's going to be NC State tailgates, folks. So tonight's a win, should be anyway. How do you think the season goes overall?
Well, I think we'll be a pretty decent football team. I just don't know if it's going to translate to an improved win-loss total. I think Evan's going on record with 8-4 or something like that.
Yeah, it's a little much.
That's a little much. A little optimistic. I would be thrilled with 7 wins. I think. I think 6 is still pretty decent.
Yeah.
If we can get to 6, and you want to look good getting to 6. You don't want to be 6 and it still have question marks. But you got Florida State, you got Clemson, you got Louisville, who should be pretty good. Notre Dame's no slouch. Although I think they're it's a more winnable game now than it was, a month ago. Carolina will be good. If we can get through the non-conference with just a loss to Notre Dame, beat ECU.
That's the big one.
That's
the big one.
I heard your show. I heard you say that's the one you're keying on. I think we'll get them in Greenville. Scotty Montgomery's kind of rebuild a lot, pick up the pieces from that whole shit show where they canned, not Lincoln, Ruffin, thank you.
Yeah.
Inexplicably got rid of him. So he's got his hands full with that. But I think we'll get him there 3-1, and then you start looking at the conference schedule, and we get Florida State at home. You never know what happens with that. I don't know. I think if you want a bold prediction, I think out of the group of teams that we probably are not favored against, I think we'll get one of those games. I don't know if it's going to be Florida State. Probably won't be Clemson.
Yeah, they're tough.
But we might get Notre Dame. We might get Carolina. The road team has fared remarkably well in the Carolina State game series. As long as we're not punting a Geo, we might have.
He brought that up. We didn't.
Well, Brandon Bishop apparently knows Gio Bernard pretty well, and when we had him on our show, I was like, "Wait a minute, you know Gio? You're friends with that guy?" Son of a bitch. But anyway,
you're on the 7-5 train.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Yeah, 7-5, 6-6. Is a possibility. But I'm optimistic enough to think 7-5. I can't go 8-4. Reasonably.
I'm alone on that island.
Yeah, you are by yourself. Yeah,
I'm alone.
Well, James, we really appreciate it, and
no problem. You guys are doing good work.
Come on the show just for a regular show sometime, and
I'd love to. I'd love to.
All right, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
a whole lot. All right,
thanks, man.
That's what it was.